Takeru is a cultured loser who finally joins a co-education school after spending 3 years in an all-boys middle school. However, this school is different from what he initially thought, as everyone here controls a power called Make. Takeru now spends his days living with 3 other girls while trying his best to find a suitable maiden for himself. The story opens up with Haruka heading towards Takeru's home. Turns out, she is going to meet her childhood friend after 3 years. They used to train at the dojo together but were forced to split up when Takeru was sent to a boarding school. Currently, Haruka is a second-year high school student and a student council vice president at Tenbai Academy. While wondering what kind of man Takeru might have become, she reaches his home. She knocks on the door and calls out his name a couple of times, but no one replies. Eventually, Haruka opens the door and walks inside his apartment. Meanwhile, the cultured boy tries to put his pants on while telling Haruka to wait a little more. Suddenly, the cardboard boxes are about to fall on Haruka, but luckily, Takeru manages to save her. However, he uses this as an excuse to rizz her up. Haruka thanks him for saving her but later notices the plot. Instead of greeting her like a normal person, Takeru compliments her for getting even prettier. Later, they both walk towards Tenbai Academy and it is Takeru's first day at school. Haruka asks him the reason he chose Tenbai Academy and he replies that it was an all-girls school that went co-education this year. For someone like Takeru who was in the all-boys boarding school for 3 years, it is nothing but a dream comes true. After arriving at the academy, Haruka tells him that Tenbai is a little different from normal schools. It features a different variant of school festivals and martial arts competitions. She also adds the fact that the school features a festival dance in Miko clothes every year. The weirdo imagination starts running wild, but a sudden announcement grabs his attention. The school committee members are called to prepare for the entrance ceremony, and Haruka leaves, assisting Takeru to head towards the gym. After she leaves, Takeru takes a look around him and the sight of girls lifts up his mood. Afterward, Takeru starts following the girls, which results in him getting lost on the school grounds. Suddenly, he hears a blast and witnesses 2 girls facing each other with weapons in their hands. They attack each other with powerful attacks, but the other one manages to easily dodge and counterattack. Takeru is confused to see such an event and notices Kodama hanging on the tree, laughing. He tries signaling that her plot can be seen. Kodama soon figures it out and starts panicking. Suddenly, the sword from the fight comes flying towards Kodama, and in order to avoid getting hit, she falls on top of Takeru. The fall results in a kiss between Takeru and Kodama. She starts confronting him and notices the symbol on his body. Afterward, Kodama lets him go and realizes that he is the enemy she has been looking for. Later, the entrance ceremony starts and the principal begins the boring speech. She welcomes everyone in the school and informs them about the element they will be receiving. It will be the job of students to fight amongst each other in order to attain the 8 Maken for themselves. The current Maken holders are Garrett and Azuki, the same girls who were fighting earlier. Azuki informs everyone that she is the winner of that battle. In order to humiliate the opponent, Garrett reveals Azuki's habit of hugging stuffed toys while sleeping. Suddenly, Kodama appears on the stage and offers to demonstrate the Maken powers by choosing Takeru as the opponent. Haruka tries to stop this battle, but the principal ends up allowing it. She plans to take revenge for the things he did to her. The 3-minute battle finally commences, and it starts off in a very normal manner. Kodama decides to use her raw strength, and the weakling barely manages to block her attacks. After a while, she gets tired of the useless fight and uses her element to attack Takeru. Haruka is about to jump in, but Inaho runs past her and manages to block Kodama's attack with her own Maken. This comes as a surprise for everyone, as none of them had any idea that Inaho has her own Maken. After saving Takeru, she gives him a hug and tells him how happy she is to finally meet Takeru. All the students freak out while Haruka is out of words. She later introduces herself as someone who is responsible for protecting Takeru as his fiancé. Subsequently, the degenerate receives a kiss on the cheek, which makes Haruka even more furious than she already was. After giving Takeru the beating he deserves, she heads over to his new room and walks inside without giving him a proper warning. She witnesses Inaho chilling in his room. She informs Haruka that the principal allowed her to live with Takeru as he is her fiancé. She still tries to get in their way when suddenly the door behind them opens. Kodama emerges, commenting on the fact that a 3-person room is much larger and prettier than the average single-person room. At this point, Haruka starts losing herself and Kodama informs her that she has her own reasons to switch to this room. Soon after, Haruka leaves and returns with her stuff, announcing that she will be living with them from now onwards. According to Haruka, it is her duty as a dorm superintendent to make sure no one is doing Riz things. The 2 other girls start teasing Haruka for being Takeru's childhood friends, which results in her getting embarrassed. Afterward, they all eat dinner and go to sleep. Haruka wakes up in the middle of the night and notices Takeru sleeping on the bunk bed. She wants to make sure he is sleeping well and decides to check on him. However, what she sees utterly shocks her. The next morning, Haruka and Inaho are busy making breakfast while Takeru just woke up and finds an injury on his face. Haruka saw him sleeping and cuddling with Inaho, which resulted in her delivering a mighty blow to his face. Afterward, he goes to wash his face as breakfast will be ready soon. Takeru opens the door and finds Kodama changing her clothes. She freaks out and attacks Takeru's eyes with her electric ability. While eating breakfast, Takeru gets a nostalgic feeling and compliments Haruka's cooking. Kodama reminds them that there is no time to relax as they are already late for school. They all rush towards the school because, according to Haruka, nobody who lives with her should be late. The three girls barely manage to reach school while the loser is left behind. In order to assist him, Kodama uses her ability to drag him towards the school. Haruka informs Takeru that Kodama's ability is that she can move things with an invisible force. Suddenly, the student council president arrives and scolds Haruka for being so close and personal with a boy. Haruka tells Takeru that the person in front of him is most likely the strictest student at their school. Unexpectedly, a gust of wind reveals her plot, which has a cute little bear on it. Everyone notices the bear and starts teasing her for being a sweetheart. Out of embarrassment, the student council president runs away. Later, Takeru enters his classroom with Inaho, and the whole class is surprised to see Takeru enter the class with a girl. Afterward, the homeroom teacher enters the class and introduces herself as Tamaka. The school principal, Minori, also makes an appearance and announces that the class will be undergoing a physical exam. Girls are the first ones to take their test, and Inaho leaves after informing Takeru. All the desperate boys burning with jealousy give Takeru a deadly glare. Suddenly, Takeru realizes that the school is co-education and asks Tamaka to go to the washroom. Surprisingly, Kengo asks the same things and both of them run towards the ground and climb the tree in front of the infirmary. Both the cultured boys start staring at the girls through the small gap in the curtain. They start rating the girls based on their looks, but Takeru closes Kengo's eyes when he tries to take a look at Inaho. Later, the rating keeps on increasing and they both feel glad to join a co-education school. Suddenly, they notice Kodama's voice, who is present at the top of the tree, glaring down at them. Instead of reflecting on his actions, Takeru starts thinking about how cute she looks up close. Kodama jumps and lands on the boys by imprinting her foot on their faces. She advises the boys to have the courage to confess their feelings instead of peeking at them. They both leave after apologizing to her. Her element asks Kodama the reason she let Takeru go, as it was sure Kodama wouldn't be able to control her anger. Kodama replies that she hasn't felt the feeling of uneasiness and the boiling of her blood since the first time they met. Later, Takeru is getting his height measured and hears a female teacher talking to the students in a questionable manner. It's finally Takeru's turn and he notices the hot school nurse, Aki. This makes him realize that the teachers are as high level as the girls in the academy. Afterward, she tells Takeru to put his hand in a machine called Karanbo that tells the compatibility of a person with Maken. The machine is not able to identify his compatibility with a Maken, which comes as a surprise as it is not something that often happens. Afterward, Takeru and Inaho are called to the principal's office and Haruka joins them as well. After the meeting, Inaho and Takeru are sitting on the bench when a volleyball destroys Takeru's face. He then notices a pamphlet about club recruiting and Inaho informs him that everyone in the school is supposed to join a club. Takeru can't control his curiosity any longer and asks Inaho the reason she wants to protect him and the truth behind him being her fiancé. She still doesn't reply and tells him that it's a secret. Afterward, Takeru realizes that he has left his bento at home and didn't bring her wallet as well. He is forced to eat the snacks Inaho bought, but luckily, Haruka comes to clutch and brings him the bento he left at home. He asks Haruka to show him the clubs around the school to make the decision-making process a little easier. This reminds Haruka of what happened at the meeting. Jen, who is the creator of Karanbo, doesn't think that the machine is mistaken even though it was made from crappy parts and low-grade material. However, it was still a surprise as 3 people with unidentifiable elements appeared in the school this year. One of them is Takeru and the other one is Inaho. The last person is a girl as well, but the principal seems a little wary of her. The brainless boy asks them if having an unidentified element is bad. They all replied that it was, as he would need an element to find his compatible Maken. The most difficult thing for him would be to defend himself from others. Inaho also explains that the fights can only take place if both the parties involved agree to it, and there won't be a problem if Takeru chickens out each and every time. Until then, Inaho promises to protect Takeru no matter what. Jen reveals that it will take him almost a month to come out with Takeru's Maken. After the students left, Minori and Jen talked about Takeru, who is apparently the son of their teacher. Takeru's mother is the one who is holding Maken Kemudo. Jen advises her to stop comparing replicas to the 8 Makens, even if it is something a god created. Later, Haruka gives him a tour of all the clubs and every single one of them involves the usage of elements. After taking a look around, Takeru thinks of joining a laid-back club that doesn't involve the usage of elements. Finally, Takeru finds his dream club. which is the Gravure Photography Club. Haruka's imagination runs wild, and she starts thinking about how Takeru will most likely take advantage of the club and ask Inaho to do risky things. She doesn't allow Takeru to join that club and offers him to join her club, which is the Kenkebu. Takeru asks Haruka about the Kenkebu club and she replies that it is Tenbai's public order team. Haruka is the club president and Kodama is a member as well. Takeru still can't decide and wants to take his time. Inaho tells Haruka that she will join as well if Takeru decides to join it. At home, Haruka is taking a shower and gets out to ask Inaho if she can borrow her shampoo. Luckily, the cultured lad is present there as well and stares at her. She gets pissed and throws the battle bottle at his face. On their way to school, Haruka asks Takeru if he has made his decision, but he still seems to be unsure about it. In order to persuade him, Haruka starts explaining the whole club and its duties to him. She explains that it is the duty of the student council to stop the fights between the students and make sure that no one uses their power in wrong way. The Kenkebu Club provides support to the student council with this matter. Haruka is confident that the school might have even more problems as the school has turned into a co-educational academy. After the explanation is done, Kengo emerges from a bush and introduces himself. Takeru remembers that he is a fellow degenerate and tries to protect Haruka from him. However, Takeru accidentally ends up touching her talents. Suddenly, a girl arrives and throws a powerful punch to take revenge for what he did. Fortunately, Haruka clears up the misunderstanding before he gets beaten to a pulp and tells the girl that he is her childhood friend. Afterward, the girl introduces herself as Yurachi and tells Takeru that she is a big fan of Haruka. She starts squeezing his hand, signaling the fact that she still doesn't trust a scumbag like him. Later, Kodama hears about a fight taking place on the school grounds and goes to check it out. The fight is between Kai and Azuki. The boy wants Azuki to go out with him if he wins and promises to not nag her anymore if she wins. Kodama arrives and decides to act as the referee of the battle. She compliments Kai for fighting and showing his feelings fairly instead of the guys who peep at girls through a window. Eventually, the battle starts and Azuki decides to fight without a make-in. She throws a kick on Kai's face but is unable to do any noticeable damage. He reveals that his make-in is steel full metal, which makes it hard. Kai strikes Azuki, which results in her uniform getting ripped. Azuki changes the terms of the battle to Kai covering her uniform cost. While watching the battle, Takeru can't swallow the fact that a guy is beating a girl and no one dares to interfere. He tries to interfere and protect Azuki, but all three of the girls stop him as he would only end up damaging himself. Suddenly, a light starts appearing near Takeru's mouth and he starts feeling a different sort of power running through his body. Kai is about to deal a brutal blow on Azuki and luckily, Takeru dashes in and tanks the attack. Azuki uses this opportunity to kick Kai's face, ultimately winning the fight. Haruka yells at Azuki that her pot flew away, and she needs to cover up. Later, Azuki and Haruka scold him for interfering in their fight and he apologizes to them. He finally realizes that even though the girls at this school are strong, the battle should be fair and the outcome should be concluded in an honest manner. Haruka reveals that this is what the Kenkebu Club does and he finally agrees to join the club. Later, Kengo and Takeru are invited to a welcome party at the Kenkebu Club. It is taking place at a hot spring and their goal is to deepen the bond between the club members. Later, the girls slowly start coming out of the dressing room wearing their swimsuits. Both the cultured guys start staring at the girls. This results in them getting hit by the president, who is embarrassed by what just happened. Afterward, Kengo informs Takeru that Yuuka is the little sister of Tamaka. Yuuka begins introducing everyone, starting with the student council president, Furin, followed by the vice president Haruka, the secretary Kimi, and Minea Yurachi. The members include Azuki, Chacha, Kodama, and lastly the advising teacher of this year, Aki. After they are done with the introductions, everyone starts to enjoy the hot springs. The club members ask Inaho if she is having a good time and she agrees as it is her first time visiting one. Kodama controls herself for a while but eventually gets jealous and takes out the plot from Haruka's swimsuit. She starts mocking her for wanting to show off her riz even more. The girls start doing riz stuff and the boys on the other hand enjoy the voices they are hearing. Suddenly, Kengo and Takeru notice a bear near the hot spring. The girls decide to fight it and Haruka wants to take care of it using her weapons. However, the other girls stop her, saying that a bear can't be mistreated like this. The plan is to drive it away without hurting the bear. Suddenly, the bear starts chasing the losers and throws them in the air. Luckily, Aki manages to save them but the bear doesn't give up. The chase once again begins but this time, Chacha makes the wooden plank bigger in size and uses it to catapult the bear. Kimi uses her ability to make a cushion for the bear to safely land. The boys are impressed and Furin informs them that Kimi's ability is to make anything a reality while Chacha increases the size of anything she wants. With this being done, the members once again welcome the newbies to their club. The whole club is running laps in order to train their stamina. As usual, the two weaklings are having a hard time keeping up with the girls. Azuki tells them that the club members need to do this kind of exercise every day as physical activity is a requirement for the Maken Kai Club. In order to make them run faster, Chachi uses her ninja star and the two boys start to run even faster due to fear of getting cut. Afterward, Furin teaches them the Maken Kai basics and they start to fall asleep. She gets furious and hits them with her marker. Their punishment is to run another 50 laps so they can be fully awake. Thankfully, Yuka gives them a peek of Furin's plot, which is surprisingly a cat this time. The boys are fully awake after seeing the kitty. Afterward, Kodama is training them to control their minds using meditation. Suddenly, they hear Iki's voice and all their concentration vanishes. Looking at her makes all kinds of wrist thoughts emerge in their minds, resulting in punishment from Kodama's Shikigami. Back in their room, Haruka mocks Takeru for being a weakling, telling him that something like this didn't used to be a problem for him. To make him feel better, Inaho starts massaging him and the weird sounds he is making begin irritating Haruka. She takes it into her own hands and presses his back, impressing Inaho. While the loser is receiving a massage, Kodama stares at him from outside the room and decides to verify his powers even though she can't sense any powers coming from him. She finally decides to show herself and tells Takeru to go out with him. The next day, he is waiting for Kodama at the meetup point, thinking that she must have needed a simp to carry around her bags. Meanwhile, Haruka, Inaho, and Kengo are present there as well to keep an eye on Takeru. Finally, Kodama arrives and tells Takeru that they will be shopping the whole day. The creep starts staring at Kodama and lets her know that the clothes look really good on her. Afterward, they both go to the shopping mall and a teddy bear catches Kodama's eyes. She goes on and buys the teddy and her purchases keep on increasing. Takeru, who is carrying all the boxes, starts getting tired, which results in him receiving insults from the brute girl. Meanwhile, Kengo looks at the next store they will be visiting and gets shocked. Haruka also takes a look and finds out that it's a clothes shop. Kodama chooses two designs and asks Takeru about the one that looks the best. The cultured boy imagines her wearing both of them and concludes that both of them look stunning on her. Afterward, she goes to try them in the dressing room while Takeru waits for her outside. While trying out, Kodama starts thinking about the reason Takeru gives the same vibes as her brother. Meanwhile, the number of customers at the shop keeps on increasing and it is getting harder for Takeru to stay still. Suddenly, he loses his grip and falls on the ground, while making sure to take a glance at Kodama through the curtains. After getting kicked in the face by Kodama, they both head to a nearby cafe. Suddenly, Azuki, who is dressed up as a maid, arrives and greets the two of them. However, her expression changes the moment she lays her eyes on Takeru. She gets furious at Kodama for bringing the weirdo along and walks away after taking their order. Takeru seems confused about the lack of customers in the restaurant, and Kodama replies that there aren't that many people in Tenbai to begin with, and another big reason is the scary old manager of this restaurant. Afterward, Azuki brings the omelette Takeru ordered, but there are green peas on it, knowing that Takeru hates them. After getting done with the meal, they head out and rest on the bench for a while. Takeru is still surprised after seeing Azuki wearing a maid costume. Kodama also informs him that she couldn't hold her laugh the first time she saw her as well. Afterward, Takeru mentions that the maid costume will look good on Kodama as well. However, Kodama soon realizes that her main goal in inviting him out is to look at the mark on his chest. Takeru thinks that he might have done something to upset Kodama, but it is quite the opposite. She comes to him and asks Takeru without hesitation to let her see his mark. Out of nowhere, three nerds emerge, and they introduce themselves as the members of Kodama Fan Club. They all clean the path Kodama will walk and check the restaurant she will visit. Their stalking skills even allowed them to predict her weekly city tours. The fan club members further tell Kodama that they can't allow her to hang out with a dweeb like Takeru. However, Kodama uses her Shikigami to throw the boys in the water. Suddenly, another person makes an appearance, but he is not a member of the fan club but is here to fight with her. He reveals his Maken and the fight between the two commences. After exchanging a few blows, Heike tells Kodama that he will be able to join Kimigari if he manages to bring back a talented student from Tenbai. He throws several slashes at her and one of them ends up hitting Takeru. At this point, Kodama notices that there is no mark on his chest. Just then, Kodama gets hit by the attack as well and both of them fall in the water. He accidentally kisses Kodama and his mouth starts glowing like it did while saving Azuki. He uses these powers to take Kodama out of the water and starts fighting Heike instead. The mark on his chest appears once again and Kodama concludes that he has the same ability as her brother. Takeru manages to break Heike's weapons and ends up winning the battle. Later, Kodama shows her appreciation by giving Takeru a kiss. The fan club members along with Kengo, Haruka, and Inaho all freak out after seeing this happen. The next day, Haruka dreams about how Takeru has become a member of her club. Additionally, how close he has gotten to Kodama, which is to the point where he receives a kiss from her. After waking up, She looks around at the two girls and realizes that both of them have kissed Takeru in one way or another. Haruka heads out and starts training. Soon, Takeru joins her too and wants to ask about the powers he has been using and the reason he can't use them since the incident. He tells Haruka that he wants to learn those powers and protect others. Haruka leaves after mocking him that the only person he wants to save is probably Kodama. At school, Takeru opens his lunchbox and finds nothing but green peas. He asks Haruka about it and she replies that he needs to get over it and stop being a picky eater. Haruka gets annoyed and is about to take away the lunchbox. Takeru tries to stop her but accidentally falls on the ground, taking down Haruka's shorts in the process. Furin and Yuka enter the room and are surprised to see the things these two are doing. Just then, Urachi comes running and punches the light out of Takeru. He tries to tell them that it is a misunderstanding and asks Haruka for help. She leaves after telling him not to call her a sister anymore. Later, Takeru is sitting on the roof and notices Chacha and Azuki having an arm wrestling match with buff dudes. Chacha manages to win and Azuki tells the club members that there won't be any changes in the budget. Simultaneously, Urachi arrives and tells Takeru that she has been looking for him. She informs Takeru that these are events to challenge club budgets. This makes the clubs who are dissatisfied with their budget shut up. On the other hand, the student council is having a meeting and Furin informs them about the incidents happening inside the school. It includes various students getting attacked and losing memories of the incident afterward. They know that these fights were not battles but one-sided beatings. In order to solve this mystery, Takeru and Urachi are ordered to gather as much information as possible. Before starting the work, Urachi informs him that she hates his guts but needs to work together in order to complete the investigation. On the other hand, Haruka and Kimi are inspecting the anime club and Kimi seems to enjoy it. After the inspection is done, Kimi informs Haruka that her personality has changed and she has become a little softer after Takeru's arrival. She disagrees and starts complaining about how useless of a guy Takeru is. During the investigation, Urachi keeps on getting interrupted by the growls Takeru's stomach is making as he hasn't eaten anything for lunch. She gets annoyed and gives him her sandwich, which reminds her of the time Haruka gave her a sandwich as well. She continued being a good friend to Urachi and her emotion towards Haruka only increased. After eating the sandwich, Takeru starts choking and asks Urachi for juice. However, she gets furious and lands a kick on his stomach, telling him to drink water instead. While he is drinking water, an unknown girl approaches Takeru and asks him if he is looking for the culprit behind the incident. She offers to help him but starts using her powers as soon as she hears his name. Her powers include laying a net on the ground which traps the target, making it impossible for them to move. Thankfully, Urachi appears and is ready to fight her. Urachi starts attacking but she manages to dodge each and every single one of her attacks flawlessly. Unfortunately, she ends up getting stuck in the same trap, unable to move her feet as well. The girl reveals that she is the true culprit behind the incidents and does it to attract the higher-ups so she can battle them. The girls start attacking Urachi and she gets hit twice by her attack. Takeru decides to call for assistance but Urachi stops him, telling Takeru that this is a job they are entrusted to complete. On the other hand, the student council members notice that the two of them haven't contacted for a while and an incident could be a reason for it. Haruka doesn't waste a second and runs out in order to check out the situation. Meanwhile, Urachi makes up her mind not to cry ever again as she wants to become a strong and independent girl like Haruka, unlike the wimpy loser standing behind her. Another one of her attacks hit Urachi and this one dealt quite a huge amount of damage. Haruka notices the place where the battle is taking place and asks Kimi to make a platform for her to reach the location faster. Finally, Haruka joins the battle and the girl tries to use the same trap on her as well. However, it seems useless on someone as strong as Haruka. Seeing the condition Urachi is in makes Haruka furious and she takes out her Maken. Turns out, her Maken can open an extra-dimensional gate. She calls out a sword and destroys her little trap flawlessly. Haruka then informs her that the gate only opens when the opponent is a formidable foe, but it refuses to open to fight some weakling like her. The girl gets pissed and tries to attack Haruka but she easily slashes through her Maken and attacks her, eventually winning the fight. After the fight, Takeru apologizes to Haruka and Urachi for being a useless good-for-nothing club member during the whole fight. Takeru tells Haruka that he will learn and train to become as strong as her, which makes her happy. She motivates him by saying that it is definitely possible if he tries his best like he did before. Meanwhile, the others seem concerned but Kodama informs them that no one in the school can beat Haruka and there is no need to worry. On the other hand, the real culprits behind the attack look disappointed as the girl couldn't deal as much damage as they expected. Inaho remembers the first time she met Takeru. It was raining and she was training on her own. Takeru told her that it was risky as she might catch a cold but it didn't matter to her. She soon wakes up and realizes that it was 8 years ago when she first met him. Suddenly, he appears in front of her and seeing an ugly face up close ends up scaring Inaho. He tells her that all the boys are changing inside the classroom for the gym class and she will have to leave. During gym class, the principal gives each student a crystal ball and informs them that the dark fog inside it is called an element. Calling it out is easy, but controlling it is where things get harder. Their first task is to focus and gather the fog at the center of the ball. He manages to control it for a second, but it returns back to the original spot after he loses concentration for a second. Afterward, Takeru tells Kengo that the culprit they caught the other day had forgotten everything she did, and it was like someone else was in control of her memories. Suddenly, Minori smacked the boys on the head for talking during the class and forcefully made them watch her use elements. Minori chooses Ken as an opponent, and after gathering the elements around her body, she is able to absolutely demolish the gorilla with a single strike. After school ends, Haruka tells Takeru that she needs to take care of some student council stuff and asks him to buy some groceries before heading home. Meanwhile, Inaho is still sitting in the classroom, thinking about the time when these two played together in the park. Takeru interrupts her daydream and asks if she wants to go shopping. They bought everything that Haruka asked them to and are finally on their way home. It starts raining and Takeru suddenly stops and tells Inaho that he can't control it any longer. He informs her that it is getting difficult to hold it in anymore and he wants to do it. Inaho realizes that the cultured lad could only be thinking of Riz things. She hesitates for a minute but finally agrees, only to find out that he is actually talking about using the washroom. After he is done using the toilet, Takeru mentions how hard it is raining, and Inaho adds that it was raining like this on that day as well. Takeru looks curious and she wants him to remember it on his own. Inaho informs him that it is the day they first met, but he still can't seem to remember it. Takeru asks Inaho to just tell him, but she refuses. Tears start forming in her eyes, and according to her, there is no point in telling him if he doesn't remember it on his own. Afterward, Takeru asks her to return to the dorm. Inaho tells him to leave as she still wants to stay in the park for a while. Later, he leaves and Inaho starts thinking that the only reason she wants Takeru to remember is because it is a precious memory to her. Meanwhile, Kengo is walking around the city and notices Inaho walking towards the mountain. She keeps on walking up the track and comes across an abandoned kitty. Back at the dorm, Takeru gets scolded by Haruka for leaving Inaho on her own. Everyone started getting concerned as it is starting to get late. Kodama tells Takeru that those with special bonds are able to find each other no matter the distance. As Inaho is his fiancé, she thinks that the two of them have a bond as well and advises Takeru to treasure her feelings a little more. Later, Takeru exits the dormitory in order to find Inaho and runs into Kengo, who is waiting outside. He informs Takeru that he saw Inaho getting towards the mountain. After realizing that Takeru might be behind her sudden mood swings, Kengo gets angry and asks Takeru about it. He punches the crap out of the nerd after seeing how clueless he is. Kengo tells him that even though he might be degenerate, he still is not someone who makes a girl cry. Kengo tries to punch him again, but this time, Takeru manages to block it. He pushes Kengo away and runs toward the mountain to search for Inaho. Afterward, Kodama comes out and tells Kengo that she has changed her views about him a little. Suddenly, the envelope he is holding rips and a magazine falls out. She notices it and starts mocking the cultured guy for being a rotten creep. Meanwhile, Takeru is running towards the mountain, apologizing for forgetting something that is important to Inaho. On the other hand, Inaho is still talking with the cat and mentions how hungry she is. Suddenly, she hears someone calling her name and gets distracted. This gives the kitty a chance to get away, and it eventually runs into Takeru. Unexpectedly, a boulder starts falling where the kitty is standing. He starts running towards the kitty and uses his element after reminding himself of what the principal taught them. He manages to accelerate his body and saves the kitty from getting crushed. However, this is not the end of it as more rocks start falling. Luckily, Inaho arrives and uses her Maken to destroy each and every single one of them, saving Takeru's life. She thanks Takeru for saving the kitty's life, and this reminds her of a past memory where Inaho was crying after getting hurt in an intense training session. To make her feel better, Takeru went ahead and smashed his head on a tree like an idiot, telling her that both of them were in the same situation now. Later, Inaho told Takeru that she would like to become his wife one day, and Takeru promised to get strong enough so he could protect her. Back in the present, Takeru is giving Inaho a piggyback ride and apologizes for not being able to remember his promise. He asks her for a little more time as he will be trying his best to remember it. He also promises to get strong enough one day so that she won't need to protect him. This brings tears to her eyes as Inaho realizes that even if Takeru doesn't remember the memory, he still hasn't forgotten what he said to her back then. Ruru is recording the scenery while Medea is talking to the priestess at the church. Medea tells her that this place is her home and everyone present is her family. Their conversation gets interrupted by a sudden phone call, and Ruru knows that it's regarding work. They leave all the work behind and head out immediately. On the other hand, Celia is performing her songs in front of the crowd and her phone starts ringing as well. Ming, who is busy taking care of the robber, receives a call as well. This alerts the robber and finds her hiding spot. However, it doesn't matter as she takes care of the robber with a single kick and heads out. Meanwhile, Minerva is reading manga and enjoying tea when she receives the phone call as well. Later, everyone who received a phone call headed toward the Tenbai Academy on their helicopter. While at the academy, Jen has finally finished making Takeru's maken and is running around the academy trying to find him. He finally manages to find Haruka, who is dragging the injured Takeru. Kengo explains that two girls were fighting on the school grounds. He tried to stop the fight, which resulted in them teaming up and beating the loser to a pulp. Afterward, Jen takes out a box and tells Takeru that inside it is his maken. However, just as he is about to look inside, Jen notices the helicopter arriving and runs towards the principal. Soon after, Akaya arrives at Minori's office and she shuts the door on him. Later, he calls all the Venus members and tells Minori that they will be joining the school as exchange students. The real reason Akaya and the others arrive is because they believe someone in the school wants to revive the Yamada no Arachi. Minori starts laughing after hearing his yapping, but he believes that it is all true. He further tells them that in the past 2 years, Spirit Mountain and Aminohara nearby elements showed great abnormalities which make them believe that there might be a god's beast in Tenbai, whose seal has already been broken by someone. At the same time, Jen arrives along with Aki and Tamaka. He starts confronting Akaya and asks him the reason behind his sudden appearance. Akaya replies that he would rather not fight with him as he will be teaching the students from now on. He yells at him, letting him know that all of them are the first generation of Maken Kai. Simultaneously, Furin appears and Akaya greets them in a respectful manner. This is enough for the nerdy student council president to fall for him. He asks Furin if she will invite Venus to Kenkebu and she agrees. The other Venus members start following Akaya and Celia greets Takeru, calling him a cute boy. Takeru stares at all the girls passing by, which makes the childhood friend furious. After they leave, Jen informs the students that Akaya is a member of first generation Maken Kai along with the teachers at this school. After everyone gathers at the Maken Kai club room, Yuuka asks all the new members to introduce themselves. The twins start and introduce themselves as Eru and Ruru. Medea and Celia introduce themselves as well, and Kengo thinks that he has seen Celia somewhere before. At last, Ming refuses to introduce herself to someone inferior and tells them that she doesn't intend to get close to weakling. Medea tells them that it is true as their group carries out missions in the most dangerous situation and what the Maken Kai are doing is a child's play in comparison. Azuki loses her cool and tells them that even though Venus is an elite group from various countries, it still wouldn't take her long to beat someone like Ming. This makes the two of them argue with each other and Azuki prefers to decide it with a battle. However, Yuuka reveals that having battles inside the Maken Kai is banned, so they will have to decide it by means of sports. The sport they decide on is 3 versus 3 in speed volleyball. They will be playing the game for first to 15 points, and if both the teams are stuck on 14 points, then whoever scores 2 more points first wins. Meanwhile, Inaho, Kodama, and Kimi are dressed up as cheerleaders and are cheering for Team Maken Kai. The boy-cultured boys start staring at the cheerleaders and the game finally commences. Azuki serves the ball and Ming strikes back using element powers. Haruka tries to stop it, but the element powers end up hurting her. She is pissed off and decides to take the game seriously. The game continues on and both the teams end up scoring 14 points. Aki reveals that whoever scores 2 more points will win the match. Takeru remembers the stakes they put before the match. If Venus were to lose, they would join Maken Kai, and if Maken Kai loses, then they would stop the activities for a semester. Furin seems concerned, but Akaya tells her that everyone's eyes are full of energy. Venus has never met people who possess the same powers as them, which allow them to enjoy the match to the fullest. Ming tells them that their powers might be decent, but the match will be ending soon. She strikes the ball on the ceiling and the falling debris scares Azuki, and she ends up missing the ball. Celia does the next serve and Haruka barely manages to keep the ball from touching the ground. Azuki asks Chacha to make the ball bigger and she kicks it with full force, allowing Maken Kai to tie the game once again. Medea decides to end the game with this final serve and starts gathering the water around the area using her element abilities. Haruka takes out her Maken and decides to take Medea's ability head-on. The collision between the abilities starts destroying the gem and the loser ends up running into it to save Haruka. After the explosion, Celia notices Takeru on top of her. She realizes that Takeru must have saved her and she gives him a big hug. Medea thanks him for saving Celia as well, but the match still remains undecided. However, according to Yuuka, both teams should be able to acknowledge each other's abilities now. After the volleyball game, Aki takes a group picture of Maken Kai and Venus group members. The next day, Tamaka introduces Celia to the class. All the boys recognize her as the famous idol except for Takeru. who is still as clueless as ever. The first thing Celia does is take a picture of Takeru and start getting close to her. However, Inaho intervenes and tells Celia that she is Takeru's fiancé. Celia starts cornering Inaho by asking about the date when they will be getting married along with the number of children she wants. Seeing how she has not thought about anything yet, Celia decides to become Takeru's girlfriend. Inaho starts sulking, but Kengo informs her that Takeru won't be living for much longer as all the thirsty boys of their class will be attacking him. On the other hand, Ruru and Eru are in their class, busy knitting some scarves. A few of the girls surround them and start asking them about their lives. Kimi and Kodama notice that the Venus members are very popular among the students and fit right in. Meanwhile, in the PE class, Garrett makes an impressive jump and all the classmates start praising her. However, her record is easily broken by Azuki, who is up next. Unfortunately, Ming ends up stealing the spotlight with her flawless movement in midair during her jump. On the other hand, Medea and Haruka are busy making curry in the cooking class. Medea reveals that cooking is the only thing she is good at and messes up everything else. This turns out to be true as she burns the dish, and Akaya, who is their teacher, ignores them and goes off to taste the other dishes. Later, Medea comments on how all the students in this school have special abilities, but they still live a normal life unlike Venus, who runs around the world like idiots, completing countless missions. Haruka replies that this place is their paradise and tells her that Venus members should enjoy it to their heart's content as well. Subsequently, Takeru is getting treated by Iki after getting beaten the crap out of him by the desperate boys. Iki tries to look for plasters in the cabinet. She loses her balance and ends up falling on top of Takeru. Later, all the Venus members are gathered and Ming can't believe Celia ended up falling for a weirdo like Takeru. Eru asks Celia if she will be confessing her feelings, and she replies that a date is all she wants for now. The Venus members decide to help her and start their investigation. They find out that Takeru is an average-looking guy whose type is a woman with big talents. However, the main problem for them is to keep the other 3 girls who are after him in check. The next day, Takeru sits at his desk and finds a love letter. He manages to hide it, but Kengo gets a little suspicious. Later, Inaho appears and he starts mocking Takeru for having a cute fiancé along with the other 3 girls crushing on him. He manages to get away and starts reading the letter in the restroom. The person who wrote the letter wants him to meet with her in the school's parking lot after classes. However, little does he know that Kengo is sitting on the toilet next to him and hears everything. He does what any logical man would and informs about the love letter to the girls crushing over Takeru. Kodama thinks that it is a fake, but Haruka seems to be a little concerned and is unsure about what to do. Suddenly, Furin arrives and tells Haruka and Kodama that a lot of trash has appeared behind the clock tower and their job is to investigate it. After the classes are over, Kengo notices that Takeru has already left to meet up with the girl who sent him the letter. Inaho goes to search for Takeru and notices bags full of snacks lying on the ground. There are several other bags and all of them lead her to a puppet who looks like Takeru. She somehow mistakes it for Takeru, and the twins start feeling sorry for fooling such an innocent girl. Just then, Takeru reaches the meetup spot and no one shows up. He starts to think that Kengo could be the culprit behind it, and he must have done it to make a fool out of him. Just as Takeru is about to leave, Celia arrives and takes him out after revealing that she is the girl behind the letter. They both enjoy some drinks and on their way back, she takes him to a suspicious-looking building. Celia tells Takeru that she wants to be alone with him and the desperate lad agrees without giving it a second thought. On the other hand, Haruka and Kodama go to check out the trash and notice Ming keeping an eye on them. Meanwhile, as soon as Takeru enters the house, a chair appears and restricts his movements. Suddenly, Inaho joins Haruka and Kodama. She seems confused about the reason Takeru isn't moving and gets shocked after hearing that the thing she has been carrying around is all but a doll. Ming seems happy that all the targets came to her on their own as it will make things easier for her. Surprisingly, Kodama uses her Shikigami and steals secret information about their plans from Ming. Haruka gives it a read and finds out that Celia and Takeru might be doing some Riz acts in the secret room. She gets enraged and runs towards the place where Takeru is locked. Ming tries to get in her way, but Kodama holds her off. Haruka and Inaho finally reach the creepy-looking house and try to open the door. However, the door appears to be sturdier than they expected, and having no other choice, Inaho uses her Maken to break it. What they see inside is Takeru forced to sit on the chair and watch Celia perform her songs in front of him. Back at home, Haruka seemed relieved as they were worried for nothing. All Celia did to him was to force him into a one-person show. Meanwhile, Takeru is lying on the bed still wondering the reason he didn't fall for Celia. Even though she is popular, cute, and meets the requirements of his desired talent size, Kengo holds a meeting among all the boys present at the Tenbai Academy. He tells all the boys that they are victims of injustice and they will have to take a stand. This results in Kengo delivering a ton of signatures from boys who want the boys and girls swimming lessons to be held on the same day. Yuka mentions that the girls might be unsatisfied if they listen to their requests. However, Kengo came prepared and he showed a battle challenge from the boys to the girls. The battle they want to do is called a water riding battle. Just then, Haruka arrives in the room and freaks out after hearing that Furin approved the boys' request for a battle. She tells Haruka that there is no need to panic as the school always uses a contest in order to decide things. Furin asks Haruka if she is afraid to beat a couple of first-year boys and she disagrees. With this, the girls from Make and Kai are ready to fight the boys. The day of the battle finally arrived. All the girls are getting ready to participate in the battle. Yuuko tells Furin that Akaya will be taking part in the water riding battle as well and her mood instantly improves. Meanwhile, Kengo and Takeru decided to peek at the girls' changing room using a ladder. However, they miscalculated and were a few centimeters away from reaching paradise. Yuzuya tells Kengo and Takeru to get down as the water riding battle is about to start. Suddenly, Kai arrives and starts shaking the ladder to force them to come down. He asks them the reason Kengo and Takeru are not going even though the battle is about to start soon. Kengo reveals that Azuki is among the girls changing, which makes Kai rethink his words. Kengo further informs him that Yuzuya has a Maken that allows him to make the body and presence of people disappear. Kai's mind starts to shift, but Yuzuya reveals that he can only make the body disappear and not the presence. All the dreams are lost and Kai walks away in frustration. Finally, the battle is about to begin. Furin and Yuuka are doing the commentary and explain that both the girls and boys team needs to remove the other team's headband. The last remaining team with the headband wins. Minori and Ming start to complain about being at the bottom even though they are clearly more beautiful. Yuuka reveals that both of them rank 6th on the list made by the schoolboys. They both let it go and became motivated instantly. Kimi notices that Yuuko is lying and their name is nowhere to be found. She tells Kimi that sometimes it is important to lie in order to motivate the contenders. The strategy Kengo put forward before the game was for all the teams to buy as much time as possible. By that time, Takeru will move forward and finish off one team. The team he needs to choose is Anaho's team as she won't fight her fiancé. However, they couldn't have been more wrong as Anaho is taking the game seriously as well. Takeru starts to struggle and decides to use the underhanded trick that Kengo told him earlier. He pulls Anaho towards himself and tells her something. This makes Anaho lose her focus and Takeru steals her headband. Afterward, Haruka asks Anaho about what happened. She replies that Takeru commented on her arms and how they have gotten fatter, which made Anaho lose her focus. All the girls started mocking Takeru, but with this, the girls lost one of their teams. Kodama's fan club goes against her and informs Kodama that they all like the smaller ones better. This pisses her off and she attacks them with her element, making their team fall into the water. Now both the girls and boys have lost one of their teams. Kodama is busy lecturing them for being rude when suddenly, Kengo arrives and steals her headband as well. Afterward, Takeru and Haruka are up against each other. Takeru knows that he can't win as Haruka is much more talented than him. Due to this, he decides to use a trick once again. Haruka gets embarrassed and launches him in the air, but finds out that he took her headband along. As the spectators couldn't see anything that happened, the management replayed the scene and found out and Takeru grabbed her headband while getting punched by her. Meanwhile, Azuki is fighting with Kai and his height makes it difficult for her to steal the headband. She decides to kick his stomach with full force and the giant starts falling on top of their team. Luckily, Celia arrives and steals his headband before he completely sinks. Azuki seems happy to beat the muscle head once again, but suddenly Akaya arrives and steals her headband as well. Now only 2 girls teams and 3 boys teams remain. Akaya goes and decides to fight Aki. Takeru and Kengo move forward to help Ayaka, but Celia comes in their way. They try to attack her from both directions, but Celia uses her strength to lift both the losers in the air at the same time. They manage to return to their horses but end up admitting the raw strength Celia has. On the other hand, Akaya and Aki start fighting in the air using their element to steal the headband. Aki lands on her horse and Akaya manages to steal her headband while standing on Minori's head. She gets pissed and throws her in the water. With this, only Celia remains along with the cultured duo. Kengo rushes in and tries to attack, but she easily throws him away. However, he manages to remove her swimsuit, which reveals the plot she is wearing inside. All the boys start enjoying the view in front of them, with only Takeru remaining. Medea uses her water abilities to quickly move toward Takeru, but she suddenly notices Minerva standing outside. This makes her stop for a second, which results in Celia flying towards Takeru. He manages to catch her and removes the headband while she is distracted. With this, boys are officially the winners of the water battle. Afterward, Medea reveals that Minerva has arrived and they need to carry out the mission they were assigned to. After the long-last battle, the first day of co-swimming lessons has arrived. Unfortunately, all the girls asked Yuzuya to hide their bodies using his Maken. All the boys can see are random splashes around the swimming pool. Takeru and Kengo are lying. thinking about how to beat the hot weather. Suddenly, Takeru notices a beautiful girl looking out the window. He tells Kengo about the silver-haired beauty, but there are no such girls in his checklist. On the other hand, Haruka is enjoying ice cream with Kimi and Inaho, which reminds her of her childhood when she used to eat ice cream with Takeru. Kimi informs them that Furin has been acting weird ever since Akaya went away. Suddenly, Furin arrives and tells the three of them not to forget about their duties. Afterward, she informs them about the new member of Venus who just arrived at their school. Suddenly, Minerva introduces herself and tells them that she is a member of Venus who just arrived. Minerva jumps from the roof and teleports to the ground, impressing Kimi and Inaho. Furin asks Minerva the reason why she keeps her eyes closed. Minerva replies that she keeps her eyes closed due to various reasons, and one of them is the power of her element. Afterward, she opens her eyes, which causes both Haruka and Furin's shirt to reveal their plot. This time, Furin is wearing a frog one and gets complimented by Inaho. On the other hand, the desperate duo is still trying to find the silver-haired girl when they hear about a fight between two people. They go to check it out and notice Ottoheim having a fight with a delinquent-looking guy. He calls Ottoheim a primary school girl, which pisses her off. She tells him that he will be forgiven if he falls on his knees and begs for his life. The other dude gets pissed off and tells Takeru to hold an official battle between the two. Takeru agrees and the battle finally commences. The guy uses his Maken to pull Ottoheim near himself, making it easier for him to beat her using his fists. He tries to punch her, but Ottoheim suddenly disappears and uses her own Maken. She starts controlling him using a doll and informs him that no matter what he tries to do, the rules in her territory are absolute. Takeru is surprised to see that none of them are moving. Gauken reveals that the result of this battle is already decided. Ottoheim can create her own territory, and whoever steps inside is controlled by her. Afterward, she begins to punish the arrogant delinquent by slowly breaking his arms and fingers. Takeru thinks that she is going overboard and decides to step in. However, Ottoheim doesn't plan to stop and ends up making a doll of Takeru as well. He is forced to kneel in front of her, but he doesn't give up. Takeru realizes that even though the opponent is a girl, he still can't allow the weak to receive a one-sided beating. He uses his whole strength and manages to defy being controlled by her doll. This surprised Ottoheim, and she used more force on her next attack, completely rendering Takeru useless. Luckily, Minerva arrives and the fight between these two is about to start. However, Ayaka arrives and stops the fight before it accelerates into something bigger. Ottoheim walks away after warning him that if he doesn't perform his job well, she will complain to Grandma, who is the chief of Kimigari. The next day, Furin warns Takeru that the countermeasure he took earlier has caused difficulties within the school. She also reveals that the failure has yet to pass his element exam, and if he fails it once again, the club will fire him. Later, everyone discusses the fact that he will be getting fired soon when Minerva joins the conversation. They tell her that the makeup exam is tomorrow and there is no way for a good-for-nothing guy to learn element control in one day. Minerva suggests that the best way to learn quickly is by holding a training camp. Afterward, they invite Minerva to their dorm room, and she gets hyped after seeing the situation. They all give up on the loser, and Kengo ends up being the only one who takes him outside to practice. After the boys leave, Minerva asks the remaining girls about the person they like. Kodama is the first to answer her question, and she informs them that there was a person she used to love. Even if they meet again, there is no way for them to be together. Afterward, it is Haruka's turn, but everyone easily figures out that the person she likes is none other than Takeru. Meanwhile, Kengo is helping Takeru train, but the weakling struggles to even move an empty bottle using his element. Kengo realizes that there might be something in his mind and asks Takeru if not being able to stop the battle is still bothering him. He further tells Takeru that if he believes that something is right, then there is no need to hold back and just go through with it. Takeru was surprised to hear something important coming from Kengo's mouth for once. On the other hand, Inaho starts saying that her dream includes marrying Takeru and living in a big white house along with their 3 sons and 2 daughters. After they are done with the girls' talk, Kodama decides to go and check on the boys, whereas Haruka and Inaho begin preparing food for everyone. Finally, after practicing the whole day, Takeru realizes that controlling his breath with an element increases the control he has over an element. With this strategy, he manages to make the bottle fall to the ground. Meanwhile, Kodama, who is going to check on the boys, notices someone following her. Surprisingly, it is Minerva, and Kodama is surprised to know that Minerva is able to see her Shikigami. On the other hand, the Venus members ask Ayaka the reason he let Minerva confront Kodama alone. He reveals that Kodama holds a clue to what Kimigari's chief wants. He also asks the girls if they are enjoying school life, and they all seem to be having fun. Ayaka seems glad to hear about the way they feel regarding school life. Meanwhile, Minerva reveals that Venus received orders to bring Kodama to Kimigari as her existence can break the seal of Aminohara. The Shikigami tries to attack Minerva, but both of them are easily handled by her. This pisses Kodama off and she decides to take the whole Venus on herself. However, Minerva backs down and tells Kodama that she doesn't want to fight her right now as she is interested in Takeru's hidden strength as well. The next day, Takeru manages to throw the bottle on the ground and passes the makeup test. With this, he is in the club once again and he will not be getting fired. The next day, Gen is finally fusing a Maken in Takeru's body. However, he seems confused as the Maken vanishes into his body. Gen informs him that there are two types of Maken and the inner types depend heavily on affinity. They are very rare as only people with the right affinity are able to use them. However, the only problem is that he can't use his Maken unless the opponent activates their Maken. After leaving the principal's office, Takeru decides that he needs to be ready if something like the Autoheim incident ever happens again. Later, Takeru tells Kengo that according to Haruka, they will be having a summer training camp where all the students practice their element control and learn new Maken techniques on white sand and the beautiful ocean in front of them. They will be allowed to bathe in an open-air bath in the forest as well. Later, Furin calls everyone for a meeting and informs them that everyone needs to pay for themselves in order to participate in the summer camp. The main reason behind this sudden change is how the club members waste the club's budget on useless things. Seeing how everyone starts to be against this decision, Yuuka opens the account book and tells everyone about the budget that is wasted on useless snacks, manga, costumes, bare photo albums, and dolls. With this being said, everyone realizes that they are the reason behind this new policy. On their way out, Kengo notices Minori putting a poster on the school notice board. She informs them that a friend of hers asked to spread the poster around. They give it a read and realize that it is a poster for a part-time job. Inaho realizes that this might be the way the club members can solve the money problem. Later, Azuki is on her way to the cafe she works at and notices the huge line of customers. She takes the pamphlet from one of the customers and realizes that all the goofballs from her club decided to join the cafe as well. Azuki steps inside and all she sees is a bunch of maids serving the customers. She asks the manager about it and he replies that they are temporary part-timers and it is good for the cafe as they are attracting a bunch of customers as well. After getting changed, Azuki corners Takeru and asks him about the whole situation. He replies that this is the only way for the club members to gather some cash for the summer camp. Afterward, Kengo informs Azuki that there is a customer who wants to see her specifically. She walks out and realizes that the customer is none other than the muscle-head Kai. Later, Azuki takes a look around and sees Kodama dominating the customers, Inaho having an eating contest, and Haruka being a clumsy maid. Afterward, she hears some sounds from the kitchen and witnesses Chacha and Kimi making a 20-scoop ice cream. Meanwhile, Takeru goes to take orders and realizes that Minori, Gen, and Iki are the customers. The managers arrive and inform them that he is their friend who asked Minori to spread the pamphlets earlier. The manager named Catherine tells Takeru that the only reason he is in his current position is all thanks to his friends. After he leaves, Takeru tells the three of them how envious he feels considering they become the school faculty after being friends as students. This reminds Gen of another friend they used to have, but Minori tells him not to recall it as it is all in the past. Later, the number of customers keeps on increasing and everyone remains busy, catering to all of them. Takeru notices that the manager seems out of it, and he replies that this is the first time his cafe got this many customers in a single day. Meanwhile, Inaho is taking an order to a table and accidentally bumps into a customer. Haruka notices what happened and tries to help her but soon realizes that Takeru is already taking care of it and he also cheers Inaho. Seeing this makes Haruka a little sad. Suddenly, Chacha appears and reveals Haruka's talents in front of Takeru as a joke. On the other hand, Kodama brings Amaris for her fan club members and writes something on it. The club members think that she has written flatboard on it while she clearly wrote love. This makes her furious and she attacks the poor fans with lighting. Later, Azuki asks Takeru if Haruka is still out distributing leaflets as it's getting harder to deal with customers in her absence. Takeru runs out instantly in order to search for Haruka. Meanwhile, she is present on a pedestrian bridge and is being monitored by Autoheim. Suddenly, a mysterious person attacks her and she manages to dodge it. Haruka activates her Maken and the fight between these two begins. The opponent rains the car she is standing on with bullets, resulting in it exploding. Haruka uses the smoke to her advantage and attacks him with her sword. Surprisingly, he manages to block her attack and is about to strike back. Fortunately, Takeru arrives at the correct time and throws the other person on the ground. He starts getting overpowered and tries to use his Maken. However, he is unable to activate it as the opponent is still not using his Maken. The enemy hits Takeru with a brutal attack, rendering him useless. Haruka gets ready to face him when suddenly, Azuki appears from the sky and kicks the enemy using her Maken. This is enough to beat the enemy and his mask opens, revealing the face of the enemy. Surprisingly, it is the manager of the shop but he doesn't remember anything that happened. Gen explains to the students that Kamigari tried to rule Tenbai Academy a few years ago. Gen's group used their Maken to fight while many of the students ended up getting controlled by them. On the other hand, Autoheim seems disappointed that the manager didn't deal as much damage as they expected. Suddenly, Kikayo arrives and informs her grandfather to call her as well. She plans to join Autoheim as well and make their plan a success. Haruka remembers a past memory where a boy was drowning in a lake. Haruka couldn't swim, so all she could do was ask others for help. Suddenly, Takeru came running and jumped into the water even though he didn't know how to swim either. He eventually manages to save the boy, which is one of the reasons Haruka wants to become strong like him. Later, Kodama tells Takeru that Haruka hasn't come to school today. She left early in the morning to take care of some student council work but didn't take any classes. Judging by her character, she is not someone who skips classes. Kodama asks Takeru to search the school grounds first and tells him not to tell other Maken-kai members as they will only worry. He starts walking around the school, searching for Haruka when he runs into Anaho. She puts a protective charm on his tie. She apologized for not protecting him earlier when he got into a fight with the manager. She further tells him to always stay by her or Haruka's side. Meanwhile, all the school faculty is gathered in the principal's office and Gen talks about how fast the time passed. They used to be Maken-kai members and now the teacher who used to guide them has a son in Maken-kai as well. Aki also puts out the fact that the current Maken-kai are brought into the battle against Kamigari the same way they did. This makes Minori think that their teacher might have anticipated it and sent his son to study in this school. Takeru is still busy wandering around the school, and he runs into a girl who tells him that Kamigari has captured Haruka. She tells Takeru to come to the tip of Aminohara alone and the girl faints afterward. He runs as fast as he can and finally reaches the tip of Aminohara where Kikayo is waiting for him. Autoheim informs Takeru that she will be taking her revenge for embarrassing her in their last battle. Additionally, she advised that he listens to what they have to say and Haruka will only get hurt as she is already in Autoheim Power's territory. He starts getting furious and asks Kikayo about the purpose she uses her strength. She replies that it is to protect her pride as the weaklings always serve the person who is stronger than them. Takeru tells her that he also wants to get stronger and the reason behind his motivation is to help others. Kikayo gives him a chance to make his dream come true by defeating her and protecting Haruka who is trapped inside. The fight begins and Kikayo attacks him instantly. The failure gets surprised after realizing the amount of power difference these two have. He tries to stand back up only to get kicked in the face again. Autoheim tells Haruka that they are only giving Takeru something he wants, the urge to protect someone precious who is slowly taken away from him. The reason behind it is to trigger his hidden powers. This reminds Haruka of the time Takeru lost someone precious to him. It was his mom. A man attacked her and he tried his best to protect his mom, but he was a weakling back then as well. Meanwhile, Takeru is about to give up as he is nowhere close to Kikayo's strength. He finally remembers a memory of his late mother who told him to get powerful. The reason his mom gave him was to not only protect himself with that strength but also protect others as well. This memory enraged him and he wishes to become powerful. The symbol on the rock starts shining and the tip of Aminohara starts glowing. Kodama can see it from the school as well and she fears what is about to happen. Kodama asks one of her Shikigami to go and investigate the phenomenon occurring at Aminohara. A huge amount of elements starts coming out of the mountain which seems like the evil energy of the sacred beast, Yamata no Orachi. The element starts getting swallowed by Takeru and he starts flying in the air. Autoheim, who is watching everything, concludes that the blood pointer is absorbing the elements through his mouth. This will result in Takeru running wild until his body completely breaks. The Shikigami who is on the way towards the mountain gets attacked by Takeru. Autoheim tells Gauken that their organization will be taking over Tenbai sooner or later and Takeru can take care of all the enemies for them. He finally reaches the school and runs into Chacha and Kimi. He attacks them without hesitating, but Kodama and Azuki luckily save the two of them. Takeru starts flying and slowly moves towards Azuki and the others. They all are surprised to see him fly and they think he is possessed by something evil. They decide to stop him by force, but a single attack by Takeru is enough to make them rethink their decision. Meanwhile, Autoheim is enjoying the show from her secret base. Gauken informs her that maybe Takeru's bloodline is close to theirs, considering how his powers work. This statement annoys Haruka, and she tells them that Takeru is nothing like the disgusting freaks they are, as he is someone who would sacrifice himself to save others. The day when he couldn't protect her mother from the man who challenged their dojo left a huge scar in his heart. This is the main reason he cannot bear to see people getting hurt through fights even today. Autoheim gets tired of Haruka's meaningless blabbering and punishes her by twisting her body. Suddenly, someone attacks Autoheim's doll, which frees Haruka from being controlled. Venus makes their appearance and tells Haruka to head back to the academy. Minerva, along with the twins, creates a dimensional space for her to teleport back to the academy. After she leaves, Autoheim starts confronting Venus when suddenly Ayaka appears as well. Ayaka tells Autoheim that he can't allow her to continue as her actions will make them lose the school itself. On the other hand, Takeru starts absorbing the elements from the surroundings and keeps on getting stronger. Kodama informs the others that Takeru has lost his conscience and is moving solely on instinct. Suddenly, a portal appears in the sky and Haruka emerges from within. Azuki notices that Haruka has pulled out Murakumo and plans to clash with Takeru's blood pointer using one of the 8 Maken. However, the danger is that if she somehow fails, both Takeru and Haruka will be dragged into a huge element vortex. Haruka decides to use her Bane-slaying ability to disperse the negative element that has made Takeru go berserk. She starts the fight by attacking Takeru with one of her abilities, but he manages to swallow it. Nevertheless, absorbing the immense power of Murakumo damages his body from the inside. Haruka uses this opportunity and attacks Takeru with her blade. Murakumo's power cleans Takeru from the inside and removes all the evil energy controlling him. A sudden explosion follows and Takeru finds Haruka lying on top of him. All the girls arrive to check up on them while Haruka starts getting mad but starts crying as she is glad that Takeru survived. Everyone congratulates Haruka for accomplishing this feat, but they soon get interrupted by Kikayo, who arrives along with a few soldiers. She tells Takeru that he possesses the power to enter Kamigari and fight with them. However, Takeru rejects her offer in an instant and tells Kikayo that he won't let Kamigari have their own way. Furin arrives and agrees with Takeru, warning Kikayo not to disturb the peace at their school. Kikayo decides to leave for now and advises Takeru to get stronger until the time they meet again. With this ordeal out of the way, everyone started living their normal lives. Takeru started training to get stronger. Furin and Yuika are still busy with the student council work while Azuki is working hard at the cafe and Kengo tags along with Kodama on her shopping trips. This was all about Takeru and his struggles to obtain a Maken. Will he be able to get strong enough to fight Kamigari? Comment Maken below and let us know. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon for more plot-filled videos.